Hey everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and today I want to show you how to make a spiral rosette setting for one of our Groovy wrapped cabs. Now this can be modified to be suitable for traditional style of cabochons that don't have a groove added around the edge, but as we're sending these out in our craft-along kits and we're selling them on our website, I wanted to show you guys some slightly more advanced ways of wire wrapping them other than just wrapping through the groove, which I think is really nice, but let's get fancy with it. So if you're interested, we do have a tutorial showing how we add these grooves to our cabochons using like a grinding machine and a special bit and stuff, but that's for a separate tutorial. So this groove can accommodate very comfortably even up to a 16 gauge wire. Now the 16 gauge doesn't nestle as deeply into the edge here as what say a 20 gauge would, but it still holds on pretty nicely. But we are going to be using 20 gauge wire, and this is American wire gauge, in today's tutorial. And I'm going to be pulling off a very generous amount. Now you could use bare copper wire, you could use well, heck, you could use sterling silver if you're brave. I like to prototype my pieces out before hitting them in sterling silver. I've pulled off an entire arm span of this wire, so around 5 feet. Now the tools that you're going to want to use are, we have a selection of round nose pliers, which I have, these are the ones that I typically use, and then these are my petite tips, and you can see that's a pretty big difference in size there, and it's very nice to have but not necessary. And if I'm brand new and starting my tools from, like, I have no tools and I'm looking to invest, I'd get the bigger sized ones before I got the smaller sized ones, because you can use thin wire with your big round nose, but it's very difficult to use thick wire with your thin round nose. So flat and bent nose pliers, and wire snips, and either stepped mandrel pliers like these ones, or a ring mandrel, or I don't know, a knitting needle or a pen or something of the sort, just something to form your bail around. So we're going to go ahead, give that a snip, and we're going to find the halfway point. Sorry, I'm off camera, but I'm finding the ends of my wire, and we're going to pull through and find the halfway point, because right here we are going to start by making a small, you could use any of your pliers for this at this point. I prefer my round just because I like the shape, but we're going to make a very small little loop, and we're going to take that, let me scooch some stuff out the way, and I'm going to do 1, 2, I'm going to give it a third, no, just 2 twists, because we can always come in and tighten it further. And then we are going to, and I've kind of kinked that up, so I'm going to straighten that back out. Just give it some smooshes with my pliers, make it so that it will lay in the groove of our stone. And right now we get to decide which point's going to be the top and which is going to be the bottom. I think that's going to be the bottom for me. And that part's entirely up to you. So I'm going to, I feel like I'm saying that a lot, nestle our wire into the groove. And then here on the shoulder sides, we're going to make another loop very similar. And so my phone just told me my battery's at 5%, so let me get this plugged in. Hopefully it won't die. Okay, so here on the side, let's make that next loop. And it doesn't have to be like directly on the compass points of your piece. And it can be cumbersome with a lot of wire like this, but that's okay. And so from here, I'm going to take my bent nose pliers, and I'm just going to do a twist like that. And that locks that loop in place. So now we can tug on the ends, and instead of reducing the size of the loop, it just tugs right there. Now you don't want to tighten too much because it can kind of cut through your wire if you just cinch it down. So you'll want to be mindful of that. And then we're going to do this one over here on the corner. Then put that there. Wrap the wire around. And this is giving us something to have our spiral frame like tie down to, like the stability points. So we're going to, twist in the wrong way. So you want to twist to make sure that it's adding twists, not just undoing the loop that you had made. So we're going to come up here, bring this around, and now, and also it may not be perfect just yet, but we'll get there. So now we're going to do like how we normally would if we were just making a basic Groovy cab wrap. And we have our wires crossed at the top, and we're just going to twist that around. I'm immediately going to take my pliers and start tightening, making sure our wires are nestled into the groove. And if they're not, we can kind of push them a bit. And I prefer up here to be my tightening point because these guys, the loops are already oriented the way that I want them to be. Though we could go ahead, if we wanted, and turn them sideways. That just kind of something to be mindful of. It didn't have to be the way that I'm doing it. That's just the way that I'm doing it. So if you're following along with me and you have some ideas and stuff that you want to try out, well, I do recommend watching the whole tutorial first. That way you see the purpose and point of behind what I'm doing. But yeah, change it up, do whatever you want, like because it's the end result. The whole point of these points here on the sides is on this piece. I did the spiral frame and it was very cute, but it was a little floppy because it wasn't holding on to anything. So I had to do these stabilization wires across the back, which is not what I wanted to do. But this piece is a lot more like if we were to have been using a regular non-groovy cabochon. And I still like how it came out, and it is very stable now. Whereas this one over here, I did one little loop off the bottom. Well, I say little, it was much bigger than what it needed to be though. And that really helped me stabilize, but I still needed to do where it wrapped around the back because otherwise it just felt kind of bare and exposed there on the back side. So that's why I have those points like that. And you could just do one of them. You could do way more of them if you wanted. But I'm going to let my phone charge up for just a little bit, but through the magic of editing, I'll be right back. So if we were wire wrapping a cabochon that doesn't have a groove, I would still wrap out this step and I would have it sit quite snug to the sides of the stone, but it's still going to give us a nice base frame. And while the techniques will remain the same, the application will be a little bit different because, well, there won't be a groove there. So we'll kind of address that as we go along. So now we're going to take our mandrel or our mandrel pliers, just whatever we're using for forming the bail. I'm using the 6mm size, and I just gripped our bail and I'm wrapping around, just like this. And the key I find to doing like ribboning around like that with two wires is to just try to keep them from crossing like within 3 inches of where you're doing your actual wrapping. I don't pay too much attention to the wire past that because it's going to do what it feels like. But that's fine because I'm not working with that wire just yet. So here we have done one wrap around the neck, and I think that's just fine because we're going to be adding more layers here in a minute. And this is very similar to if you've watched our easy beginner wire wrap earrings and the itsy bitsy spiral that we were doing, where you kind of position. I've got a bit of scrap wire here I can show you on. You just hold on to both ends of your piece, and wherever you bring your fingers together, boop, like that, and then go itsy bitsy spiral. It makes a nice little loop, and then you can flip it back to the start position, place it again, and go again. And it starts building up these really fun, loopy, organic looking loops. And you can take that, excuse me, and kind of twist it down a little bit more. and just start shaping your loops that way. And this one's a very large, kind of sloppy one, but you can get them with practice. You can get very nice and tight little spirals as well. So that's what we're going to be doing here. And I do recommend, if this is your first time wire wrapping, to practice on some scrap wire. Excuse me. So I'm going to start, oh gosh, I'm losing my voice, aren't I? I'm going to start just shaping this around, prepping it, because this is going to help me kind of determine where I want that little spiral rosette to be. And so it's, again, my hands are following that same path as though we were doing the itsy bitsy spiral, but I'm just curving it around, making sure that my two wires aren't crossing, because I think that gives us a really nice look. And then from here, we can, let's do a little spiral. And like the itsy bitsy spiral, instead of using my fingertip to press against, I'm using the cab itself. I'm using the rest of my hand to kind of hold everything else kind of stable-ish. And then I'm gonna, oops, cinch that in a little bit further because I want those rosettes to be closer together. That way we can loop this part here around this little nub. And so there you can see that really gives us something to brace against. And then we can even take this now and fold it down. That way it's not protruding out. And that just makes it look like another part of the center of our rosette. And if your wires start to get a bit weird, you can identify which one is closer to the center and bring it in some more like that. I'm going to do a nice big rosette on this side. But you can see this is doing very well at covering the edge of what we're doing. And now we've finished right there, so I'm actually going to take, and this is where the itsy bitsy spiral comes in. Now that we've gripped that side, I can kind of determine I want the spiral to be right here. So I'm going to grip this and itsy bitsy spiral. There we go. And we can kind of just build our spirals not on our base cab because it gives our hands a little bit more room to work. And I realize the scraping wire noise is probably loud, and I'm sorry, but that's quite frankly just part of wire wrapping. So, and then we're going to make another one kind of traveling in alternate directions. And I actually kind of like it when my wires do get crossed, and it just gives it such a nice, like, organic look, I think. Because usually the magic and mischief that the wire weaves itself is far more pretty and creative than what I could come up with just by myself. So just sitting back and let the wire do its thing, oftentimes I'll get much more interesting results, I think, than if I'm overly involved in micromanaging every little bend and, but that's just me. Okay, so now you can see the wires traveling around this way. So we're going to take this and we're going to whoop around the little tip there. And I'm going to bend off like in that direction just because, I guess. Good enough reason for me. And bend that around. And now you can see I'm getting kind of low on wire, so you might actually want to cut yourself about 6 or 7 feet of wire because this one, it eats up the wire. I'm just going to say, but I think it looks so pretty. All these spirals. I love spirals. So, And you could incorporate beads. If you guys are interested in seeing a tutorial on how to do this, incorporating like some different seed beads and things, let me know, because I could do that. At the time of recording, this is going to be our Thursday tutorial, but I could record that for the upcoming Sunday, so you'll kind of get them back to back. I think that's what I'm going to do, actually, now that we've discussed it. So yeah, and you can do just a little spiral. You don't have to do every single spiral huge. You can have some be bunches of different sizes. Like on a rose bush, not every bud is blooming at the same time. So it is perfectly okay to get some different sizes and stuff in there. Okay, so now we've gone around this guy, and we totally could have left this bottom loop not tucked over to the side and just have it hanging down and add like a little charm or something. Like, again, so many options on this, you guys. This is one of an infinite variety of ways to make this. So I'm really excited to see how y'all make this design your own. And if you follow along with this tutorial and would like to share what you've made with the world and with us, please tag us on Instagram, because that's how we get the folks for our feature posts that we do over there on Instagram. It's kind of the newest edition of our featured artisan. It gets, I think, much more exposure for the featured artisans than just doing it to our newsletter. Though I am trying to incorporate it into our newsletter as well. It's a lot to juggle sometimes for somebody who's not exactly computer savvy. So now I'm going to come in and do what's going to be, I think, the last spiral of the frame. And we're just going to bring it around. And I'm just hooking behind the bail right there. Now, I did not cut myself enough wire to add a bunch of interesting stuff like how we have on this one. But again, you could totally do much longer pieces of wire and really make this super ultra fancy, intricate. And I think we'll address that in future tutorials if you'd like kind of a creative guide along the way. I'm going to get my fingerprints off of that. So now to do the bail, of course, with more spirals, I'm going to take this piece across the front here. I'm going to pick this one is closest to the top and center, so I'm going to snip about, giving myself 2 centimeters. And again, save all that scrap wire because you never know when you're going to need to practice or when you might need just a little bit of something. And I'm going to grab with my, with my super petite round nose pliers. The birds outside are just hollering, y'all. Like, it's that time of year, I suppose. Everybody is all Twitter pated and stuff. And I'm just going to shape that around. I'm going to give that a smoosh. And then I'm going to bring this wire around the edge there, as you can see. And I'm actually going to use my pliers to give, I want the wire to bend right here. So by doing that training bend, now that we thread this through and we pull it, that's where the wire will sit. So there's no way to like perfectly tame wire, because sometimes it really does just do the weirdest stuff for seemingly no reason. But if you can do little spots like that to encourage it, it will be more likely, won't always work, but it'll be more likely to land in that spot. And that can give you a little bit more control over your wire placement on swirly organic pieces like this. So now I'm gonna snip, giving myself 15 to 18 millimeters. The more wire you give yourself, the bigger of a spiral you're gonna end up with. So, and you can always trim more off, but it gets kind of complicated trying to add more in. So I try to not shorthand myself. So that is how you make, and you can see there's no wiggle in the stone. I mean, I'm really having to push on it. And our spirals, there's no pokey ends because they've all been tucked in. Like, our only 2 ends are here up at the front. And so we could thread this on a chain. We could put this on a beaded necklace. A sun catcher would be very pretty. I really love this color of blue. And at the time of recording, it is not too late to get your craft along kit for this month, where we are giving everybody in their kit at least one of these grooved sky blue cabochons that I think are just so super pretty. And we do all sorts of stuff with our craft along kit materials. So you'll get, like, depending on the level of membership, if you're interested in supporting our channel and joining our craft along club, we do like our fused glass, our dichro. We're thinking about trying to incorporate some gemstones if we can get our hands on them. And parawire, like you'll get like spools of parawire as well. We typically do some of our wood burnt cutouts that I really like to use with like polymer clay and resin and stuff. But at the time of recording, our Glyforge is broken again. So, but they're taking good care of us. They're shipping the replacement carriage plate out to us so that we can get back to forging. But that's going to take like at least another 2 weeks. So, blah. But get your hands on some groovy cabs. We also do shop updates every Monday. Usually we'll do it around Sunday night. For those of y'all who like to camp out our website, there are a couple of y'all, I think, that are guilty of that, much to our delight. But yeah, we do a shop update tour video every Monday at noon, so we always have the shop ready at least by then. And that way you can get some of our groovy cabs. And if you're like looking at our website and you see some cabochons that you like these are some examples of the labradorite. Woo, super durable. Thank goodness, that one's so pretty. These are some examples of the labradorite that we carry, and if any of our gemstones or fused glass or anything like that are good candidates for being grooved, there'll be a little box that you can check on the item page that will, it adds an upcharge, but you know, we're grooving them for you. So it's kind of hard on my hands. So Randy was like, you can't just do it for free, you have to charge for this. So I was like, okay. But yeah, you can select that and we'll add the groove for you. If that option isn't there, we've determined that that piece is not a good candidate because sometimes a piece might be too thin or brittle. Sometimes happens. So yeah. But thank you guys so much for watching today. I do hope that this was helpful to you. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave them down below. And let us know like what you would like to see more tutorials on, because we're working on some more ring tutorials using groovy cabs. Like, I'm really into groovy cabs right now. But that's just me. Oh, also, if you were doing this and we're using an ungrooved stone, I would definitely have cut like maybe closer to like 8 or 9 feet of wire, and I would have gone through and like wrapped across the front and the back of each spiral, and we will actually do that in a future tutorial, I do think. So yeah, I do hope that this is helpful to you guys. And also, we have over 800 tutorials, not including our live streams, here on our YouTube channel, in addition to CSL designs and Oksana crafts and like oh gosh, Mithril is really good. I'm really bad at remembering names. What I'm getting at is there are a bunch of really awesome wire wrappers teaching here on YouTube. So if you're looking to set something that's not a groovy cab or just getting more ideas and stuff, I really encourage you guys to check out the broad variety of very talented artisans and educators here on YouTube. So it's yeah. So thank you guys so much again for hanging out. And until next time, happy crafting. Bye.